Order. Order. Mr. Jeff Hoon.
I beg to move that Mr. Speaker do issue his warrant to the Clerk of the Crown to make out a new writ for the electing of a member to serve in this present Parliament for the county constituency of Crewe and Nantwich, in the room of Gwyneth Patricia Dunwoody, deceased.
Order. The question is that I do issue my warrant to the Clerk of the Crown to make out a new writ for the electing of a member to serve in this present Parliament. Allow me to read the motion before us. I'll start again. The question is that I do issue my warrant to the Clerk of the Crown to make out a new writ for the electing of a member to serve in this present Parliament for the county constituency of Crewe and Nantwich, in the room of Gwyneth Patricia Dunwoody, deceased. Now, I say to the honourable gentleman for his advice is that what he can do just now is oppose. It then goes on to public business, and it's the first public business after question. Does he wish to oppose?
I wish to oppose, Mr. Speaker.
Order. In that case, then the matter is taken on after after questions and on to public business. Order. Order. We now have proceedings on the motion for the writ moved earlier by the Right Honourable Member for Ashfield and objected to. I should tell the House that this is treated as a matter of privilege. I will read out the question again. Order. The question is that I do issue my warrant to the Clerk of the Crown to make out a new writ for electing of a member to serve in this present Parliament for the county constituency of Crewe and Nantwich, in the room of Gwyneth Patricia Dunwoody, deceased. The Honourable Gentleman, the Right Honourable Gentleman, Sir Nicholas Winterton.
Mr. Speaker, I rise with both sadness and regret to oppose the issue of the writ for the county constituency of Crewe and Nantwich in Cheshire. Can I say, in doing so, that I apologise to the Chief Whip, the Right Honourable Gentleman, the member for Ashfield, because I do not in any way wish to frustrate the government in what they're seeking to do. But as the longest-serving member in the county of Cheshire, who was a close friend of the late Mrs. Dunwoody, and I worked with her in the interests of many issues in the county of Cheshire over many years, I do believe, Mr. Speaker, I do represent a fairly strong view across the House that it appears to me and to many other people that the issuing of the writ prior to the funeral of the Honourable Lady does seem to be pursuing this matter with unseemly haste. Yeah. Mrs. Gwyneth Dunwoody, Mr. Speaker, as you know, was not only hugely respected for what she did in this place, a robust, independent socialist who was never frightened to express her view and to stand up for what she believed to be right. She was equally committed and respected in her constituency and the county of Cheshire as a whole. I merely wish to represent to this House my concern that the writ has been issued prior to Mrs. Dunwoody's funeral next Thursday in St Michael's Church here in Westminster, which I shall be attending. I wish to register that point. I do not intend to vote against it, and I hope members of the House will not vote against the issue of this writ.
Mr. Hughes.
Mr. Speaker, it's been the tradition ever since I've been here that when a colleague dies, it's the party of that colleague who moves the writ for the by-election or seeks to persuade Parliament to do that. And that has a logic to it, and it's a logic from which my colleagues and I don't dissent. And like the Honourable Gentleman for Macclesfield, none of us have yet fully taken in and recovered from the fact that literally a couple of weeks ago Gwyneth Dunwoody was here, being as robust as ever, and she's now not with us anymore. But I would just like to, without seeking again to persuade my colleagues to oppose the decision which we'll now take, just register that we appear to be going down a road of much more speedy by-elections after deaths of colleagues. That it seems at least one should have a convention that the funeral should be allowed to take place first, and that clearly there may be a need for talks between the parties to try to make sure that we get back to a slightly more decent and respectful and honourable process. Of course there's an issue. Of course there's an issue about not wanting to leave a constituency unrepresented for too long. But there are practical issues as well as principal issues as well. And if you have a by-election, call very quickly, although there's no doubt that we will all...
Order. Let the honourable gentleman speak. Let the honourable gentleman speak. Honourable gentleman. Order. Mr Brennan. Mr Brennan, please allow the honourable gentleman to speak.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. If you have a by-election, of course we'll all get engaged and we'll all fight a robust campaign. Inevitably, that's with the case. But it's not even very good in practical terms to have hasty by-elections. It reduces the chance of people being able to consider whether they wish to be candidates and for their parties to consider that. It reduces the chance of people applying for postal votes and being able to take part in the process. And it reduces the chance of people being able to take part in the debate about the politics of the constituency and the politics of the country. Mr Speaker, I hope that we could look again at the process for the speed and the calling of by-elections. I think the public would share the view of the honourable gentleman, the member for Macclesfield, that a little more caution and a little less haste would be an appropriate way forward. But the government, in the end of the day, have made the decision, and so the government must have its way and live with the consequences.
And Winterton.
Mr Speaker, I rise briefly to support my honourable friend, the member for Macclesfield, as a fellow Cheshire MP, and I know that the sentiments he expressed will be shared by other Cheshire colleagues and, in fact, members on both sides of this House. In almost 25 years, I have never known a writ to be moved before the funeral of a colleague, and I was dismayed, I have to admit, at the discourtesy and insensitivity afforded to Mrs Dunwoody's family and to her constituency. When boundary changes took place in 1983, I inherited part of Gwyneth's former constituency.
Order. The honourable lady isn't giving way. The honourable lady.
I will not give way. I inherited part of Gwyneth Dunwoody's constituency, and I know the high esteem in which she was held by her former constituents, and they still hold her in that high esteem today. Gwyneth Dunwoody was a neighbour, a redoubtable woman, and a character, and I believe she did not deserve this treatment.
Leader of the House. Order. Mr Speller.
I'm sorry, I invite the Honourable Lady to give way. She claimed there to be speaking on behalf of the family. And she claimed there had been disrespect to the family. Has she asked the family as to whether that's their view or not?
Leader of the House.
Mr Speaker, I would like to raise 2 points in response to the points that have been made. The first is the question of the wishes of the family, and the second is the question of the conventions of this House. Perhaps I can read to the House a statement from the family in respect of the late Mrs Gwyneth Dunwoody. They've said, we fully support the decision to begin the process of electing a new MP for Crewe and Nantwich. Our mother proudly represented this constituency for 34 years and would not want to see local people go without an MP. She worked tirelessly for local people and recognised there was always more to do. She would want that job of work to continue as quickly as possible. And that's the wishes of the family. And, Mr. Speaker, it is a long-standing convention of this House that when a party loses a member, that party in this House decides when to move the writ, which then triggers the process which leads to the ensuing by-election. Crewe and Nantwich have had a doughty advocate for 34 years, and they need a new Member of Parliament. I therefore invite the House to support the motion.
Order. The question is that I do issue my warrant to the Clerk of the Crown to make out a new writ for the electing of a member to serve in this present Parliament for the county constituency of Crewe and Nantwich in the room of Gwyneth Patricia Dunwoody, deceased. Many of that opinion say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order. 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 10-minute rule motion. Douglas Caswell.